Alright, so it is daylight here in Singapore as we're race 17 out of 23, almost there for the end of the season. And yeah, so
we're going to be logging some extra data during this session. Nothing you need to worry about, but as we have some new parts on the car, we'll just confirm they're performing to spec.
I was trying to time that and it worked out well. So what I was going to say was that we're going to take our engine parts and hopefully we won't have to change out too many more. I don't think we can see it here. We cannot see it from here. But with the weather, we might get some rain in the race. It showed overcast. 23% rain, so overcast in the main event. And we had some mod issues. The improved AI mod that I was using from Coldar F1. I don't know if it's like somebody said. I think it was Race King that said something about the track model. The 3D model of the track was outdated, so it wasn't updated to the new track layout. So it caused the AI to take the old track layout. And yeah, so like I went into time trial mode, and it was blocked off both to the right and to the front, but it was physically blocked off to the front, and it was the old layout where there's buildings and scaffolding in front of me. But yeah, we have that fixed, so we're gonna go ahead and knock out practice. I know it was a little bit longer of an intro because of the issue there. But yeah, so hopefully I didn't hear anything about any R&D changes or regulation changes, but we should be getting those within the next few races, if not the next one. So we'll have to see about that. So we'll see you guys for qualifying and the main event. All right, here we are in Singapore, and our times for practice not very different, about a second from each one, softs, mediums, and hards. We're playing around the line. These last two corners, I took off a little bit easier than I should have, but we did find some time compared to practice 3 with a 133.7 for our first run in Q1. Our final run in Q1, 2 minutes to go, just over 2 minutes to go here. It's going to be good enough for Q2 with a provisional P4. Next up through Q2, we're using a new set of tires. Last set we used one. Coming across the line 133.0, original P9. And improvement from Q1 as we're coming up to our final run for Q2. Same set of tires and about 7/10 of an improvement. Almost invalidated our lap time there. Lost for words as we're provisional P2 going into Q3. Our teammate Mick Schumacher still out of Q2. Final run here. Provisional P10 as we're last to set our early time, 133.3, so it's not as good as Q2, but it's still good enough for P9. And on to our final run, finding it over a second on a new set of soft tires. That's good enough for P4.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who'll be fronting the grid. Perez, Leclerc, and Lewis Hamilton. Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
All right, so a better start compared to our practice sessions. We weren't feeling really good on our practice sessions, but we did manage to squeeze out a few seconds on those soft tires. I believe it was a 134, a high 134. From our practice sets, but we also have to take in fact that the temperatures are going to be a lot different compared to qualifying in the race when it comes to practice. So I wasn't feeling well coming into qualifying, but a P4 start in the second row here for Singapore seems like a better start for me. I don't remember if we ended up DNFing last season there in Singapore. I will have to double check. But without further ado, let's get to the main race.
Marina Bay hosted a Grand Prix that briefly ran in the 60s and 70s, but the Garden City re-entered the calendar for good in 2008. We missed it for a couple of years, but it was great to come back to the Singapore Grand Prix. Here's the track, and it's all changed for 2023 with 4 corners removed between turns 16 and 19. It means the lap length is now just over 3 miles, and that might come as a welcome relief to the drivers, or especially their brakes. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Sergio Perez will lead us away from pole position, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Hamilton, Johnson, Russell, Sainz, Gasly, Verstappen, Bottas, Hülkenberg, Ocon, Norris, Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, Joe, Jackson, Sargent, Tsunoda, Mayer, and Oscar Piastri. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. And with me today, of course, is Natalie Pinkham. The last few races have been a bit rough for them, unable to get a clean run. That's got to have some effect on their confidence, surely.
Certainly confidence is an important factor, and every time you're involved in an accident, it's not just the car you damage, but that confidence as well. But all the top racing drivers are able to tune that out when the race gets underway and focus on the job at hand.
All right, so here we are, a second row start. I'm feeling really good. I just hope that our pace matches that of qualifying and not of practice. But looks like they're wanting us to start on the mediums and a medium to hard strategy. Save those soft tires for a safety car just in case. Go ahead and take a look. And yeah, so have an extra set of soft tires just in case. And we'll go from there. So let's get to the race.
Here we go then, the formation lap gets underway and the excitement here is building as we near ever closer to the start of the race. Which team will come out on top? Who's got their strategies right for today's race? Well, we'll soon find out. As the cars make their way back to the starting grid to form up and get ready for lights out, let's hope the race ahead today is a thrilling one that will go down as a memorable Grand Prix in the history books.
All right, so P4 start as we're coming up to the grid, starting on these medium tires, going to the hards. And if you guys remember looking through qualifying, our medium tires, provisional P2 on the time charts through practice there on these mediums. So we're feeling really good as we're starting behind the McLaren, or not the McLaren, the Vodafone Ferrari and the Mercedes, as the rest of the cars are lining up on the grid there between Hamilton and Russell. Our 5 red lights are off. We're off to an okay start. The Ferrari Leclerc staying on the inside, and he went over the curb, so we had a little bit of contact from there from Leclerc, but it's not enough for a puncture for our back tires. So we're up into P2 already as we're coming to the end of Sector 1. Sergio Perez already 6 tenths, almost 7 tenths ahead there in the Red Bull as we're trying to get into his toe and catch up. Hamilton close behind us as well, and Russell to follow in P4. Coming through that long left-hander, or that sharp 90-degree left-hander, and then coming through Sector 2 over to the castle section. A very tough section for me. I didn't really like it through practice. Wasn't feeling very well. As took us a time and a half pretty much to get these corners. As you can see, we're missing the apex of that corner coming across the bridge. And this hairpin, we're going to be missing this hairpin a lot. As you can see, it's going wide. Hamilton trying to go for P2, but we have the wider line. We have the straight line speed on these mediums ahead of Hamilton. See 2 tenths of gap already to Mercedes following closely, trying to make sure that we don't go over that white line to stay inbound so we don't get that penalty. We had a 3-second penalty. I believe it was Japan last season, but we've been working hard to stay within the lines as we're wrapping up for our first lap here in Singapore. And Sergio Perez already 1 second ahead. Hamilton and Russell in the chase. Next piece of action is Coming from lap 5, Russell finally able to get DRS on us and make a pass on these mediums. As you can see how close he is, he's trying to make a move on the inside. We give it to him. I didn't want to cause any damage to our car because I waited for that vocal point. I was watching him in the mirrors as the two Ferraris behind the Mercedes here in Singapore. We're still having that highlight issue. My guess is that it is the Aston Martin Honda livery. Thinking about looking into using a different Aston Martin Honda livery for next season, but we will have to wait and see. As we're fighting for P2 now, still behind Russell, lap 5, coming through the castle section across the bridge, and there's been a few times already, the last 2 or 3 laps, I've been so close to that corner that I don't really want to bust the corner and tear a wheel off. But lap 10, we're finally able to try to make a move here against Hamilton. He's attacking, we're defending, but we're coming into the pits. And I don't know what it is. I don't think it was me going over there. Going over those markers, but as soon as we go in, you could see Verstappen sliding in behind us. A lot of the other drivers came in too. You could see Ocon, Norris, all of them, Sargent staying out. And there was a yellow flag, so our pit window, no flag issued. You see all the other drivers coming in, all the other pit crews coming out for our pit stop. But at this point, I didn't get it on video. As we're coming out of the pits, we're P13. And we have the safety car. I remember season 1, we almost smashed into the safety car, so I made sure not to do that mistake again, knowing that we had to pass the safety car. It was actually telling us that this time. And yeah, so we managed to get out ahead of Hamilton, and we're back in P4 on our safety car restart here now on lap 13. Nobody had significant damage. And I think it was just more of a pileup here through Sector 3 as we come around these last 2 corners to the restart. And with how the game is buggy, we can't pass Ferrari or Leclerc till after turn 1. I'm sorry, there. A little bit of a yawn that needed to escape as we're still fighting single file through turns 2 and 3. And you can see all the other drivers there. The gap forming between myself and Hamilton as we come to the first DRS straight. So we stay in the toe as best as we can on these hard tires. And to me, these drivers were a bit slow. I broke late and stayed with Leclerc as best as possible as we're on the safety car restart. And we're doing pretty good. You can see the Alpine and Valtteri Bottas close behind, but Verstappen. We're side by side with Leclerc through Sector 2. When we hold that line on these hard tires, we have the outer line, we have the better pace. We get back up into P3, so now it's just a matter of when and where we can make that move on George Russell, if we can, even though we are already a second out. Not even done with this safety car restart lap. See the Ferrari trying to make another move on the inside. But 1.3 seconds gap between myself and Russell, and then another 1.2 with Russell and Perez. Perez just taking it away here in Singapore. And Max Verstappen not doing so well there in P6. So it looks like Perez is trying to close the gap on that championship. He wants to stay in the team, and he's definitely showing it as we're rounding out the end of lap 14. So about 8 more laps to go or something like that. As we are moving on, we're going to be on board with Yuki Tsunoda. This is lap 18, and he has an engine failure here coming around the corner. And you can see Callie Mayer coming up from behind him. You can notice that she doesn't have a wing. This is going to be her perspective. He had the engine failure, and all you can see is smoke, and she slams into the back of Yuki Tsunoda. You guys remember race number 2 of the season. Our teammate Mick Schumacher had an engine failure, and the same thing happened with him, and I believe it was Kevin Magnussen in the Alfa Romeo Haas. So another incident like that where someone can't see. A little bit of a wheel spin there as we're still trying to find that time against Russell. This is right after the incident between Tsunoda and Mayer, as we're coming through Sector 2, that's Sector 3. You can see Leclerc 1.1 seconds, so now we just got to dig in and get as close as we can. And it's not until the final lap here that we're trying to make a move. We push him to the outside, and we brake late. Or he's on the inside, we brake late. And we make a move on this next right-hander corner. The highlighting issue is still going on. As we're up into P2 against George Russell, the reigning champ from last season. And I know we're both going to get a podium spot here, but it's good that we got P2. That's good for the points.
Yes, and that's a podium. Excellent drive. The whole team have worked especially hard this weekend, and that, my friend, is a fantastic reward. Well done.
It's never easy to make it across the finish line here in Singapore, but they've done so with some style here today to take a remarkable victory. So, Natalie, what do you think helped them deliver this result?
Quite simply, a driver is nothing without the team behind them. So, a deserved winner, but we do have to give a shout out to the team in the pit lane and back at the factory. Very much a collaborative process.
Red Bull are our winners today after showcasing some incredible driving. There's been a huge push from them lately to stay competitive with the other teams, and they're certainly proving themselves. So let's review the updated driver standings. Well, not the result our points leader would have wanted, but it certainly makes things interesting going forward. So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Well, there was a lot of incredible driving out there today, but if I had to pick someone, it's got to be Sergio Perez. Fantastic driving.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. And pulling further ahead in the standings, it's Red Bull. And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action. But with more races lined up, be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
All right, so what a race there. Starting in P4, ending in P2, getting ahead of George Russell, Charles Leclerc there. As it seemed that first half with those mediums, it seemed like we were losing pace. But as we hit that safety car right before our pit window, like right on our pit window, I think it was between Callie Mayer and somebody else. I don't know what happened at the time, but that safety car, it didn't really help us, didn't really hurt us in any way. But as we came out, I knew like we had to follow the safety car's pace, but we had to try to get as ahead of as many people as we could. As you saw, we had to give the position back to the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc as he was trying to get out, and we got ahead of Lewis Hamilton, splitting us and Max Verstappen. And Max Verstappen got caught up behind Lewis Hamilton there, and that kind of helped us out. Let me look at the standings here again. Sergio Perez up in P3 against Lewis Hamilton for the driver standings, and that cuts his deficit between him and his teammate Max Verstappen by 40 points. I would like to see Sergio Perez stay, but the word on the street is whoever finishes ahead stays on the team, and whoever doesn't gets swapped out by Daniel Ricciardo, the reserve driver. So Sergio Perez has 6 more races to go to close that 40-point gap on Max Verstappen. And we'll have to see. George Russell still 27 points ahead behind Max Verstappen to try to close the deficit so we can try to get that Drivers' Championship once again. And Mercedes 38 points behind Ferrari 133. So Aston Martin, we're right there behind Quadrant McLaren. If we we're 30 some points, 31 points behind Quadrant McLaren. So if Mick Schumacher can start getting some points on the board, start getting some top 10 finishes, that looks like a good challenge between us and Quadrant McLaren. But Nico Hulkenberg, good finish. for the Alfa Romeo Haas. And Joe Granu P12, not Pierre Gasly finishing top 10. That's going to be cutting the point. Lando Norris outside of the top 10 for points. Kathleen Mayer, Yuki Tsunoda, DNF right after the safety car. What an eventful race, and we got 6 to go after this. So we'll see you guys in the next episode.